So we will start to admit all the participants in the waiting room now.
Revolusi digital dan disrupsi global yang tidak menentu membuat pendidikan yang mengkolaborasikan integrasi teknologi dan manajemen menjadi hal yang sangat dibutuhkan. Untuk mencapainya, tentu banyak tantangan dan tanggung jawab yang harus dilewati. Semakin tinggi karir, semakin besar tanggung jawab yang akan kita emban. Sehingga pada suatu titik akan muncul sebuah pertanyaan, sudah cukupkah kompetensi yang kita miliki?
Selamat datang di Departemen Manajemen Teknologi ITS. Departemen Manajemen Teknologi ITS menyelenggarakan program-program pendidikan untuk para profesional. Kita menawarkan dua strata pendidikan. Yang pertama adalah program magister yang kita kenal dengan program Magister Manajemen Teknologi atau MMT. Yang kedua adalah program strata 3 yaitu Doktor Manajemen Teknologi. Program MMT sendiri sudah dimulai pada tahun 1996. Sudah menghasilkan lebih dari 2.100 lulusan. Lulusan-lulusan MMT ini tersebar di berbagai sektor industri dan banyak di antara mereka yang sudah memiliki posisi yang cukup strategis di organisasinya masing-masing.
MMT-ITS hadir sebagai pilihan membekali ilmu dalam program pasca sarjana. MMT-ITS memiliki keistimewaan tersendiri dengan program multidisiplinnya yang memadukan antara ilmu manajemen dan juga teknik. MMT-ITS akan mengasah kemampuan dalam bidang manajemen berbasis teknologi dan juga teknik menganalisis. MMT-ITS terdapat pilihan kelas malam dan kelas akhir pekan, juga blended learning. Perkembangan dan kemajuan teknologi yang sangat pesat tentu juga berpengaruh dalam dunia bisnis beberapa tahun terakhir. Pada akhirnya, kurikulum dan metode pendidikan dituntut untuk bisa menyesuaikan dengan iklim bisnis dan industri yang sudah berubah ini. Karena itulah, mahasiswa MMT-ITS sangat beragam, baik dari segi usia, latar belakang jurusan di jenjang sebelumnya, bahkan profesinya. Secara tidak langsung, hal ini akan menciptakan sebuah jaringan atau networking yang tentunya bisa dimanfaatkan mahasiswanya.
Kita berharap program-program ini bisa memenuhi tuntutan kebutuhan masyarakat untuk mendapatkan pendidikan yang bermutu untuk para profesional yang sudah bekerja di berbagai kalangan. Terima kasih.
Kesuksesan lahir dari sebuah proses. MMT-ITS, Business Leader with Strong Analytical Skill.
Okay, Bu Reni, you can start, I think. You are still mute. All right.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Professor. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, this event will be started soon. Selamat malam, Bapak Ibu semuanya. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. Saga. It's nice to meet you here. I hope you are doing well. And it seems that we still have the similar time, the same.
Yeah, you are muted, Bu Reni. Okay.
Okay. Well, selamat malam Bapak Ibu semuanya. Good evening everyone. Good evening Dr. Sraga. It's nice to meet you here and I hope you are doing well. And it seems that the time difference between India and Indonesia is not that significant, so we still have the similar time in here. And actually, we can say that this is a special guest lecture since it is the first guest lecture in the field of human resource management to be held by inviting the international guest speaker in this department. So therefore, we are very pleased and we are very such a good opportunity. And thank you for our head of department, Professor Newman Pujawan, who already made this come true. And tonight, we have around more than 100, I think, 100 participants who are already joining now. And I guess there will be more will be more coming later, while some others are also joining through our YouTube channel. And our participants consist of master students and some also undergraduate students, and we also have some lecturers joining here with us. Like I think I see that Pak Budi, selamat bergabung Pak Budi. So I hope you all enjoy this lecture. Well, my name is Rania Fatin. I'm from Department of Technology Management. And tonight, I will be moderating this guest lecture. So first, please allow me to introduce briefly about our special guest speaker. We have Dr. Srada Kulkarni from India here. So currently, she is working as a director MDP at IIMS, and also she is a young professor at Sai Baljaji Group, and she's also visiting e-professor at Sunway University, Malaysia, and Success Point College, Sharjah. And she has received several awards, which are Superwoman Award 2020 as a motivational speaker by FSIA. She also has invited as guest speaker at various Indian universities and management institutes during current pandemic. She also has awarded as the Best Teacher 2020 award by Asia Education Summit and Award in New Delhi. And she has also awarded as the Best Teacher 2018 by India Today. And she has been invited as guest speaker for management conference at several countries like Dubai, Thailand, South Korea, Japan, France, and Spain. She has been invited as the guest faculty at James Cook University, Singapore, and last she has also appointed as Maharashtra State President for Life Skill Council, WICCI. So that's what wonderful brief profile of our guest speaker tonight, and I believe that Dr. Srada will be able to share valuable insight and experience to us. So now, I think let's continue to our main agenda, which is the guest lecture with the topic of human capital strategy for Agile Organizations. And I also want to remind for those of you who want to ask some question, please type your question via Zoom chat, or later you can raise your hand after the speaker finishes the lecture. So, Dr. Srada, I will pass this session to you. You have around 1.5 hours to deliver your material, and it's up to you how to use your time. So now, time is yours. Thank you, Dr. Srada.
Yes. Thank you so much, Reni. That was a wonderful introduction from you, and I would like to thank Dr. Pujawan as well for organizing this beautiful topic, because this is one of the most important topic nowadays. We must talk about human capital, and that too for agile organization. So a wonderful choice of topics, and I hope that together we're going to have insightful interactions with each other. So thank you so much. So before I begin the sessions, I request all my participants to do one thing. Okay, are you all with me? Because I'm going to keep on asking you a lot of questions, and if at all you are on mute and you don't want to disturb, you can just use your chat box and you can type out your answers in the chat box, right? So that's what I would expect you to do. And meanwhile, the more interaction happens, the more these sessions will be interesting, right? And you will be able to remember it better. So that's what I expect all of you to do. So before we start the sessions, I just want you all to do something that I'm telling you to do, okay? If I clap at once, you have to look at your right side. And if I clap twice, you have to look at your left side. Okay? Make sense? Okay. Yeah, great. So everybody, are you there with me?
Yes.
Let's begin.
I do.
Yes, we're there with you.
I'm here with
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that is how I wanted you all to pay attention to what am I doing. So now I'm sure that all of you are paying attention. Now I want you to be more engaged. So again, there is something more that we're going to do, and then we will start our discussion. So I want you all to keep your hand on your heart, everybody. Just keep your hand on your heart and just say that I have n number of energy, numerous energy which resides within me, and I will be using this energy for this particular session of mine so that I gain maximum from this session, right? So yes, I'm sure, whenever you're having your supper, what do? You generally pray and then you eat your food. Why do you do that? You do that because, that helps you to digest the food better, and then you get all the nutritious benefits of the food. So similarly, when we are learning something, it is important for us to pay the entire attention to our learning through prayers, right? To a small meditation activity. And that is how we can actually make the most of the learning. Make sense, everybody? I hope so. Okay, so now I would just share my screen.
Okay.
Give me just a moment. I'll share the screen. Let me know if you can see the screen. Just a moment. Is the screen visible, everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
All right. So as Renee has already told you, the topic that we're going to discuss today is human capital strategy for agile organization. And she has, though, given a wonderful introduction to me. Let me also give you a brief about what exactly I do, right? So she has told you that I am working as MDP director in a management institute. So that role includes a lot of interaction of me having with the corporate world. Okay, I conduct trainings and consulting programs for different organizations for developing their brand, as well as establishing effective HR practices. And that is the reason why the human capital strategy is one of the topic which is very close to my heart. And not only that, but it is also an important topic. And I'm sure this particular topic is going to be insightful for all of you as well, because no matter what department do you work, what kind of functions you are, the ultimate thing that you do is you work with other people in the organization. You don't work standalone, isn't it? And that's why it is very important for all of us to understand the human capital strategy. And when we say human capital strategy, we are actually, it's a very vast topic, I understand. And that's why we have actually zeroed it down to agile organizations, right? So, you being the technology students, all of you, I'm sure you would have a lot of knowledge about what agile organizations are, right? How do they use the software of portfolio management, and whether they're using Kanban or Scrum technology, whether you have a sprint meeting or, you have an agile board, and all those technicalities you must be very well versed with, right? So I'm not definitely going to get into that details, that zone, which you have already have an expertise over, but I'm going to talk about my own experiences in the field of human capital strategy and how it works for the agile organization. So when we talk about agile organization right now, it's extremely important for all of us to understand the kind of, changed business environment that we are in right now. So all of us have faced this pandemic. we have been through this COVID-19 situation, and because of that, the entire business scenario has changed, right? And that's the reason it is more important for us to understand the agile organization, to adapt the agile technology, and accordingly we have to streamline the human capital strategy for our organizations. So before we discuss about it, let's see who all are the best organizations or high performing organizations who are already using agile techniques. Okay, so here you see the list of such organizations, which includes Amazon, Google, ING Vesa, Facebook, Airbnb, General Electronics, Dell, Southwest Airlines, Tata Group, Samsung, Starbucks. So all the big brands nowadays you will see are actually using this agile technology or agile organization structure, isn't it? So out of these particular organizations, let's look at the one organization, which is Dell. So Dell, if you look at their motto, their tagline, you will see seek challenges and find yourself. So what they're talking about personal excellence. They're talking about innovation. They're talking about changing yourself, adapting to the changing situation. And why are we discussing Dell? Because this is worldwide one of the top 5 companies in personal computer areas, right? In the technology. So if you could just look at the kind of graph that is there in front of you, you will understand that this particular company stands at the 3rd position in the overall world market share, isn't it? And that's why when we try and understand how Dell uses this agile technique and how they streamline their human capital strategy for being effective, we see that 18% of their workforce before the pandemic was working remotely. But nowadays, the situations, it has completely changed, right? Many of the companies nowadays are having this work from home culture. And that's why this organization also believes in this flexible policy and remote policy of work life, right? They allow their employees to work from remote locations so that it is beneficial for the organization, for that individual, as well as the team. Because you know that when we talk about agile organization, we understand that the most important factor is working with teams, isn't it? So human capital strategy, according to Mohammad Chahadi, who is the director of human resource, who's working with Dell, he says that, this flexibility allows the team members to have an option. They can decide where, when, and how they want to work. And he also claims that this on-site works and this off-site work is equally effective, right? He says that, the employees who are working from remote locations are equally productive as compared to the employees who are working in the traditional setup. And then when you have this kind of culture, remote work culture, you also able to reduce the global carbon footprint. So you are being able to do a sustainable business. You can be a green organization as well. And that actually helps the organizations or the employees to balance their work and their personal life, right? So the bottom line is, it is actually the benefit for the organization to be successful. So according to the HRD, or according to the director of HRD in Dell, he says that being an agile organization helps them to become successful, right? So now let's try and understand what human capital strategy is. Now let me put you in a situation here. Let me ask you a question, okay? So you are technology students in ITS. Now you tell me, if at all your organization or your university plans for an excursion, right? Or plans for a trip, and they come and tell you that, okay, tomorrow you have to go for a trip, right? So in that case, what all information would you seek for? Anybody? What will you look for? What are the questions that you're going to ask them?
Organizational integration.
Uh-huh. Yes.
And performance evaluation, I think.
Okay. All right. So when they'll tell you that, okay, we are going to go for this trip for 2 days, the very first thing that will come to your mind is, why are we going there? Isn't it? Okay, what are we going to get from that trip? Where are we going for this trip? And if at all you don't have all this information, you will end up not being able to completely prepare for this particular trip that your university is organizing for all of you, isn't it? Why? Because you don't have enough information. So if you look at the HR department of the organizations, before this human capital strategy has emerged, it was considered to be human resource, right? So when we say human resource, what is the difference between human resource and other resources in the organization? Just like you have financial resources, physical resources, you have infrastructure, technology. Similarly, human capital or the employees of the organization were also considered just like another resources. Okay, but again, if I would ask you a question that what is the one factor that actually differentiate your organization from others, what will be your answer? All of you are working with different organizations, isn't it? You're working with at different profile, different designations. So let me just ask you all, what do you think is the one thing that differentiate your organizations from the other organizations in Indonesia? Anybody?
The culture, maybe.
Yes, absolutely. Makes sense. What else?
Efficient.
Efficiency, yes. Efficiency in terms of what?
Not efficiency, but the vision.
Vision. Okay, perfect. Makes sense.
How we work.
How you work. Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah. The practices, the procedures that you follow. What else?
Structure of organization.
Structure of an organization. Absolutely correct. You mean to say organization structure, isn't it? The people and the hierarchy, right?
Yes, right.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, so all of you, the answers that you all have shared right now, you seen or have you realized that there is one common factor that you have all have spoken about? And what is that factor? The human factor is the common factor, right? Nobody says that, the technology differentiates the one organization from others. Why? Because technology can be copied, right? If you say that the capital differentiates, the organization, some organizations have more capital capacity or more investments than the others, then you can influence the other investors and make them invest in your organizations. But there is one thing which cannot be copied by other organization is related to the human factor. Am I right? Be it the organizational structure, be it the practices that you follow in the organization, be it the vision of the organization, be it the culture of the organization, it is all related to the people, the leadership in the organization, as well as the other employees who are working in the organization. And that is the reason why human resource is not exactly like all the other resources. It is not a resource, but rather it is an asset to the organization. And that is the basic reason why human capital, the capital, which is an asset, right? That concept has emerged. And now when we say human capital strategy or human resource strategy, there's a difference between these two words. Apart from just not calling it one of the other resources, there's one more reason that we call it human capital strategy. And the reason is, if you look at the background of the organization or the history of the organization, you will realize that human resource function or the department earlier was using what? They were just hiring and firing, right? They were just into the administrative activities of the organization. And that is the reason why they were not aware about what kind of products do we have, what are the changes that we are bringing, what are the units that we are producing, what is the return on investment that we are looking at, what is the profitability that we are looking at. All these things were not a part of human resource department. But when we have emerged with this human capital strategy, we have ensured that human capital department or the HRBP, that is human resource business partners. Why do we call them business partners? Because they are equally responsible along with the R&D, the production, the marketing, sales department. Human resource department is also responsible for the profitability, productivity of the organization, and they're aware about what kind of product or service we are providing to the customers. And they also have to take into consideration the customer delight, right? So this human capital strategy is a little different than the regular or the traditional human resource functions. How it is different? By doing different things. So if you're looking at your screen, you will see that human resource department is involved in process involvement. So whatever process that are happening in the organization, be it the financial process, marketing, HR, whatever process are happening, HR is involved in those processes. They are aware about all these processes, right? For example, again, when you are working in an organization, tell me that if you're not aware about who is your, top management in the organization, or maybe what are the values that your organization carries, or what is the vision and mission of the organization, is there anybody who says that I probably would not be able to explain the vision and mission of my organization? Anybody who's working, I'm sure all of you are working, right? So do you aware about the vision and mission of your organization and the values it carries? Are you aware about the total strength that is there in your organization? What are the different product ranges that you have? If at all you are a part of a group organization, which all the different products and services your organization is diversified in? So many a times, if at all your answer is yes, then your organization is focusing on human capital strategy. But here, if you say that my answer to this question is no, then probably your organization has to look into the human capital strategy because they are not involved into the processes, right? So that's the first responsibility of human strategic department. Second is competency development. Now, earlier, if you look at, again, human resource department, what they used to do, they just look at the profile, qualification, and if they find a person suitable with the qualification, they used to hire that person in the organization, right? But that is not enough for an organization because it's not only about your qualification, it's about your skill, it's about your attitude, it's about your perception, it's about your engagement. Yep. And that's the reason why competency mapping is very, very important aspect of human capital strategy. Organizations have to look into the important key strategic roles that the employees are going to play in the organizations, and accordingly, they'll have to ensure that each and every employee has that competency which is required to perform that particular job. And when we say competency, it's not only about having that competency, but it is also about what is the percentage of competencies required to perform that job effectively and how organization is able to do that. Now, I have one more question to all of you. Which organization do you think is a learning organization? Which sector, which department? Anybody? What is going to be your answer?
Training and development.
Research and development.
Which one? Sorry.
Training and development.
Training and development. Okay.
But in the discipline can be learning as well because they want to excel their performance.
Discipline department. Okay. Any other answer? Any sector that you think is a learning organization sector? Maybe IT or education or consultancy or anything like that? Yes. Which sector do you think is a learning organization? Or which company would you like to say is a learning company, learning organization? Can you give me an example?
To show my serious intentions.
Okay, so let me tell you all that each and every organization and each and every department in an organization is a learning organization and learning department, right? It's no more the responsibility of the R&D department or the T&D department or the L&D department, right? Each and every employee has to reskill, upskills themselves so they are able to complete their role or do their role effectively, as well as they are ready for the role which is there in future. And that's the reason why, again, human capital has to ensure that each and every person in the organization, each and every employee is ready to learn. They have to create that culture of learning. And that is why learning management also is an important aspect of human capital strategy. Then system enhancement. So now you know that, there's a close and open-ended system. Earlier, the organization used to keep everything to themselves. Hai na? India, if at all something happens in India, we will keep it to us and we won't share it with Indonesia, right? And if at all Indonesia develops something, they would not share it with India. So earlier the culture was like that. We used to feel that, we have the expertise and all this expertise should remain with us. But because of this globalization, liberalization, digitization, what has happened? We are coming together, right? As Rini has rightly said, we have very good relationships between Indonesia and India. We share the cultural exchanges, we share the technology, we have export imports happening between us, right? So what is it? It is all an open system, right? And that's why in an organization also you have to have open system. You have to share your best practices with others, and at the same time you have to adapt the best practices from the other organization, and that is how you can enhance your system by using technology. And that's the reason why, again, human capital strategies, one more important function is to ensure that the system enhancement is happening on a regular basis. Then you have organizational integration. So as I just spoke about that, different departments, HR has to be related to different departments. They have to understand the functionality of each and every department, the skills, the competencies, so that the entire organization is integrated together and each and every team who's working in the organization gets the right resources. The resource allocation happens in a good manner and they are able to perform to the best of their capabilities. And then performance evaluation. Again, you all are working in an organization. Every year you have your appraisal which is happening, right? And then you receive a rating. But again, many of the organizations are focusing on the weaknesses of their employees. When you go through an evaluation process and appraisal, performance appraisal, what happens? Your manager sits with you and tells you that, okay, these are the areas you need to inform, get trained. Okay. But when we talk about human capital strategy, we are not only focusing on the improvement areas, but we are also focusing on the strengths of the employees. So in these particular organizations wherein the human capital strategy is strong, they come and tell you that, okay, these are the strengths that you already have and these are working towards the benefit of the organization. So here I believe I have made your concept of human capital strategy clearer. Am I right? Everybody, are you there with me? Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely good.
Yes.
Yeah, you enjoying the session? You do?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Very good, very good. Again, so as I said, what is an agile organization? Let's try and understand that. But then I told you earlier that I'm not going to touch upon the technological or the software, functions of agile technology, because you already know that, Kanban and Scrum. And if at all I would ask some of you to come forward and discuss about it, you can have a very good discussion on it. But I'm looking at agile organizations from the human capital strategy perspective. So for an organization, for the HR department of an organization, how do they consider human capital strategy for agile organization? So what is an agile organization from the perspective of an HR department? So first of all, it has the shared purpose and vision. As I just said, every person in the organization, be it maybe a line manager or just an executive or just a clerk who's working or just a data entry operator, whoever it is, they are aware about the values of the organization, the vision and the mission of the organization. Now, again, you may be working in an organization as a store manager or a floor manager, or maybe you're working with, maybe HR department or finance department or accounts department, right? So if at all, when you're working with such organizations, and if you say that, I'm just working as a manager, a line manager, so my job is not important, but the CEO's job is very important, right? In an organization, a job of a CEO is more important than my job. Then you are not an agile organization, because If at all the CEO has to do his job in the best manner, and if he has to be effective, each and every person, each and every department, each and every person in the hierarchy has to perform in a better manner. CEO cannot actually outperform if at all his team members are not doing good. Am I right? And that's the reason why shared purpose and vision is the most important aspect or a component of agile organization. Second, we have flat company structure in the agile organization. So when we say flat company structure, what do we mean by that? Again, you would know that, there are complex organizational structures which are available. Maybe your organization would also have one of them, maybe tall, hybrid, virtual organization structures, or you may have, a tall organization structure, as I said. So these are all the different organization structures that we are working in. But when we talk about agile organization, we have a flat organization structure. We are not bothered about, the designation and the protocol as well. What is important is I have a certain function and I have to be effective enough to carry out that function. So if at all you feel that, I am a manager, but just one of the subordinates of mine knows the computer very well, or maybe, he has, an edge over the Excel. He is expert in Excel, right? Or maybe expert in a certain technology. So you don't mind going to him, asking his help and learning from him. You don't have that ego factor that I am a manager, I can't go to him and I cannot learn from him. He just, a subordinate of mine. So if you have that particular process, or if you have that kind of a culture, it is an agile culture, a flat organization structure. Fail fast attitude. So when we say fail fast attitude, what do we mean by that? Okay. Many of the organizations you must have seen during the pandemic, they have actually done the layoff and they are actually shutting down and they are closing their departments. And many of the companies, the big short companies, are also not able to sustain. Why? Because they don't want to take a risk, isn't it? They don't want to try something different. They don't want to adapt the new technology. They don't want to take any risk. And that's why, they choose to give up. But when you talk about an agile organization, they have a fail fast attitude. So when we say fail fast attitude, it means they are ready to take risk. They are ready to do some innovative practices. They want to try something new. And even if while trying something different, they fail, they still actually are not disappointed by that failure, right? They try and learn from that failure. They get their lessons, they learn their lessons, and they move forward and try something new. So that is how, they keep on trying and trying and trying. And failure is not something that defines them. And trust everybody, trust my friends, trust my students. It is very, very important for all of us as well, not to get carried away by the failures, right? In a personal life also, we should not be scared of the failures. We should accept the failure, we should learn our lessons from them, and we should move ahead, right? So next is flexible resource allocation. So many of the organization, you will see that, they are actually following the traditional method of sharing the resources. So once, when they do the resource allocation, once in a year, let's say at the beginning of a year or a beginning of a financial year, the same resources are allocated for the rest of the year and they do not make any change. They are very rigid about it. But an agile organization, they are very flexible. So you know that, agile organization works in small teams, right? They work in sprints. And then when they're working in sprints, this human capital department ensures that this particular team has enough resources to their allocation or to their disposal so that they are more effective and there's no hurdle in their performance. Okay. One more component of agile organization is hands-on manager. So your manager in an agile organization would not be that, strict kind of a supervisor. And he would not tell you, okay, after 1 hour, what are you going to do? What did you do in the last 1 hour? He will rather empower you and give you the clarity. He will give you the freedom to decide exactly how do you want to do your job. Okay. And he will help you, train you, and give you the confidence that, okay, you are good in this particular job and you can do this job. That's what the actual hands-on managers do in an agile organization. Every employee is empowered, every employee has a clarity of exactly what is expected from him, and every employee is engaged in the organization so that he is able to do his best. Next is role mobility and entrepreneurial drive. Now, I'm sure many of you would be looking for an entrepreneurship maybe 3 years down the line or 5 years down the line. You want to start your own business, isn't it? Am I right? And similar entrepreneurship attitude is also developed in an organization which is an agile organization. So your organization like Google tells you to develop your own kind of a different project, right? And they allow you to work on your own project. Why do they do that? Because they believe in that entrepreneurial drive in a person. A person should be driven by himself. He should be self-motivated. He should not be looking for somebody else to motivate him. Okay. And then they also have a role mobility. So they prepare. Remember, I told you about competency mapping. So they prepare the employees in the organization for adapting different roles. So if tomorrow you're working in marketing department, and if you're supposed to do something in the finance department or join a team in the finance department, you'll be confident enough to go and join that team, right? Sensing and seizing the opportunity. So these organizations, like many of the, again, this pandemic has created a different kind of perspective in the entire world, right? Some of the people have taken it completely negatively, and they say that, this pandemic has happened, and then we have financial crunches, and, our product is not working anymore, and people are not looking for these kind of services, and what do we do, and things like that, blah, blah, blah. Isn't it? And then there is another set of people who say that, this is a big opportunity for all of us. We can come up with new organization structures. We can actually adapt the new normal. We can actually, develop the work from home culture in the organization. We can come up with different products and services which the different people would accept, right? And that is how there are few organizations who have diversified their business during this particular pandemic as well. So that is how agile organizations sense and seize the opportunities. Then they have a transparency and continuous learning atmosphere. So I told you, if you have to become an agile organization, it is very, very important for each and every employee to understand the vision, mission, values of the organization, what the organization is looking for, what is the culture that it wants to develop. And that is only possible if you have the transparency in the organizations. The information is easily available. So when we use these agile platforms, the softwares, anybody can actually go and collect the information or retrieve the information from the software, right? You can put in your feedback, you can put in your questions, and then you get the answer. So that is how they ensure the transparency and continuous learning practices. Employees are engaged in such organizations because they are valued. Their worth is actually recognized by the organization. And then we have the technology. So the technology used in the most effective manner. I'm sure, again, when you're working in an organization, you may experience, and this is what has happened in the organizations wherein I have done the consultancy and brand building of them also. Okay, there are few organizations who have started using new technology without understanding whether their employees are ready for that technology or not, whether that technology is the right technology for the kind of functions and the culture that they have or not. And because of that, I have witnessed and I have convinced them, I have trained them that this is not the particular technology which you can use directly as it is. You have to do some modification in that technology. You have to bring some changes. You have to train your people for this technology. You have to communicate the reason of, implementing this technology to the people. And then you can only implement it effectively and it will work for you. That is my own experience. So similarly, in an agile organization, technology plays an important role. The technology is always effective. It is actually saving a lot of energy, time, and resources of yours. And at the same time, it is user-friendly. People can easily operate on that technology. And it facilitates decision making. It helps to retrieve data, information, and reports, which is useful from taking a decision, and as well as it actually makes your life easy. by giving you an ease of communication and sharing your feedback. Because ultimately, when we talk about agile organization, the most important factor is your customer delight, right? The software uses the technology wherein you have your processes, and ultimately what you're trying to achieve is the result, your customer delight, customer experience, and the feedback from the customers, continuously getting the feedback from the customer is an important aspect, right? And that aspect is taken care of very well in the agile organization. So I hope that you have understood the aspects of agile organizations from the human resource department's perspective. Now look at this slide, aligning business strategy with people and human capital strategy. So you can call it people strategy, you can call it human capital strategy, it is one and the same. And that's why you will see that many of the organization, including Walmart or Google and Facebook, they don't call it an HR department anymore, right? What do they call themselves? They call them people department. Okay, so when you have a head of that department, it is called happiness officer, chief happiness officer, or chief people officer. Why do they do that particular term? Because they want to treat people as the most important asset to the company. So when you have a business strategy, it is extremely important for all of you to align your people strategy or human resource or human capital strategy with your business strategy, because ultimately you have some business results to achieve, right? If you look at again the pre-read which I have already shared with you, I'm sure you would have read that pre-read which I have given you, which I have shared with you, and through that you have understood that different organizations have a differentiation factors, right? Some are looking at the product quality, some are looking at the customer intimacy, and some are looking at the operational excellence. So now, as an organization, first of all, you have to decide about the business strategy. What is that one thing that you want to focus on, and what are the business results that you are looking for? Okay, because in agile organization, it is not about the profitability. They feel that the profitability is a natural process, it is a natural result of your efforts, and you any which ways are going to get that. But what is important for them is the customer delight and customer experience, right? So similarly, when you talk about the business strategy and the business results, if you say that we are focusing on operational excellence and through that we're going to ensure the customer delight, then your human capital strategy has to have an alignment with this. So what your human capital strategy or what your HR department will do in this case, they will actually analyze the entire capability of the organization. They will analyze the kind of business results that you're looking at. And then they will ensure that all the practices, all the employees in the organizations are aligned towards it. They will try and accelerate the practices by planning properly, by acquiring the right candidates, the right talent pool, the right kind of employees who are already having those skills which are required. They will ensure that the maximum of the employees are engaged in the organization, and they will also help the employee to develop their own capabilities. So that's how an alignment between the business strategy and human capital strategy also plays an important role in the organization, right? So I hope that you're clear with this as well. If at all you feel that I'm going a little slow or maybe too fast, or you want me to repeat a certain topic, please stop me and you can actually ask me questions. Or if you want me to give you more clarity on a certain topic, you can just raise your hands and you can tell me, and I will stop and explain you again. Okay. So here, when we talk about business strategy, we actually talk about improvement and change management and planning and strategy and vision and all those things. And then your human resource capital department or human capital department actually helps you to achieve those business results that you're looking for, right? Now, my dear friends, this is one of the most important slides that we have, right? How agile organizations can build robust people strategy for success. Now you know that there's a VUCA word. Have you heard about this concept before? VUCA word? Yep.
Quality, uncertainty, complexity.
Yeah. This is Absolutely, absolutely. And then last one is what? Ambiguous. Absolutely. Okay. So if you remember that, or if you agree with me that before even before the pandemic, we were also talking about VUCA world, right? This concept is there from last 2-3 years. But nowadays, it has got a lot of importance, and that's the reason why at the beginning of this session, I have told you that this is a very important topic for all of us to discuss right now about agile organization and about the human capital strategy, because the entire culture of an organization, entire structure and the business environment has changed drastically, isn't it? We were actually thinking that US is the best and developed and advanced country, but look at the kind of management that they had about the COVID-19 situation. They failed in managing, isn't it? So they were not ready for these kind of challenges. And you may realize that, Indonesia or India, being a country, a developing country, we still are able to handle those situations in a better manner. Why is it so? Because we are actually ready for this VUCA world. This VUCA world is a concept which has gained a lot of importance in these particular situations right now. It is volatile, it is uncertain, it is complex, it is ambiguous, and we are not even sure what is going to happen in future. When are we going to get that vaccination, right? Many people are talking about the second wave of COVID-19. There is Ebola and other viruses also which are coming into practice. The yesterday's newspaper was talking about some other virus located in some other location or in some animals in a country. So all these things are so uncertain and so complex, and we don't have any certainty about it, right? We're so uncertain about what is going to happen in the next month, or what is going to happen 6 months down the line, or 1 year down the line. And at the same time, if you look at the business environment, it is also completely volatile. People are not sure whether they're going to, remain with their jobs or not, whether they'll be able to retain the job that they have or not, whether they're going to get the promotion. I'm sure your bonuses and the kind of yearly structures or yearly benefits that you're getting from the organizations are also hampered because of this situation. And that's the reason why the entire business situation, as I said, has changed. And that's why agile organization has gained a lot of importance nowadays, because that is how you can actually still deal with this situation. You can sustain in the market and you can still retain your position in the market. Okay. For that, it is important for an organization to build a strategy, a people strategy, which is robust and able to bring success to them. So what is that strategy, and what are the components or characteristics of those strategies? So it starts with smart work. Okay. Many of you, I'm sure we are learning from so many days, and from our childhood, we have many motivation quotes, and in our school days, and our father and our, parents, everybody tells us that you must work hard, right? But this is not enough in today's world. You have to work smart. You cannot just work hard, and that's not enough. As I said, your organization also have to acquire a smart work policy. Some of your employees will be working from remote locations. Some will be working on sites, because the companies like manufacturing sector, you cannot have the entire staff sitting at home and working from home, right? There has to be people who are coming and actually working on the machines and the robotics and all those things that you're using for manufacturing certain products. So you have to have a combination of people on site and off site, right? So here the technology plays an important role. You have to have a smart technology which imbibes or which combines this on-site and off-site workers together, and you ensure that the productivity of the remote workers and the people or the employees and the on-site employees is the same. And if you remember the example that we discussed at the beginning, Dell, right? They say that, the productivity of the traditional offices employees and the remote employees is the same. So how do they ensure? They ensure it by doing smart work. So technology platforms can be used to ensure that the training, the feedback, the communication is possible between the on-site and the off-site workers, and that's how you can work smart. right? Physical and mental health. Again, as I said, the effect of the pandemic is not only on the financial or the business environment, but it has also affected the human psychology, right? It has actually affected human psychology? Because many people have gone through these COVID-19 situations. They have been through these corona effects, right? Some of you, some of your references, some of your friends, or maybe some of you also, God's grace, you're good here, you're sitting here, you have actually come out of that situation, but you may have faced or might have faced these situations, isn't it? You must have seen people suffering from this COVID. And even if we are not getting affected by COVID, this kind of an uncertainty and that fear, that scare is always there, right? So we don't know that we are talking to somebody, we are shaking hands, or we just talking to another person. He may be affected by corona, and the same thing can happen to us also. And we don't even know how it is going to lead us, right? And that's why there is a lot of pressure on your psychology. There is a lot of physical pressure that people are going through. People are getting into depression and stress and burnout situations. So for organizations at this particular moment, one of the most important factor is the physical and mental health of their employees. They have to ensure that, their employees are insured, right? They have an insurance for such kind of ailments, so that, there is no extra financial pressure on the employees and they don't feel bad about it. But at the same time, they have to ensure that the employees are going through proper exercises for their physical fitness, and they also have to emphasize on the mental fitness or mental health by producing or by introducing different programs which will help you to have a better mental health. Many of the organizations also coming up with counseling centers right now. Okay, why are they doing all that? Because they want to ensure the physical and the mental health of their employees. So this is one of the most important aspects. New paradigm for skills and talent. As I said at the beginning, talent is important at this particular moment. So the employees who are able to adapt to the new situations, and that applies to all of you as well. You're working in an organization. You never know, after 3 months or 4 months or 6 months, the technology will change, right? The kind of workplace will change. So you have to be ready for all that, isn't it? You're already learning technology. You're already technology graduate and postgraduates and all those programs you're already taking. But apart from that, you have to develop that adaptability also amongst yourself. You have to keep on reskilling and upskilling yourself. And that is the most important paradigm shift that the organization is looking for in the employees. They have to ensure that they are training the employees, they having proper development activities and plan for the employees, so that they have the right skill set and their talent is used to the maximum. So this talent management also plays an important role in the agile organization, so that they become successful, right? Flexible workforce. Again, I need not even have to mention about it, because I'm sure many of you would be doing work from home, or maybe, you must have reduced with the number of days that you're going to the offices, or maybe the working hours would have reduced. So every one of us is experiencing, we are using this technological platform. So you're not supposed to get into the classroom, but you can just sit at your own comfort, and you can attend classes from, different parts of the world. So, okay, so this is the kind of flexibility that we are talking about. So in an organization also, you have to ensure that you have a flexible workforce. People are ready to work from wherever, whenever, and whatever they can do, right? So they have to decide how, when, and how, and you have to ensure that they have enough resources to be a flexible workforce. You have to give people that opportunity to decide whether they want to come to the office or they want to work remotely. You just have to ensure that their productivity is good. Okay. Next is leadership with hands, hearts, and hands. Head, hands, hearts, and hands. So what do we mean by that? Head, heart, and hands. Head means you have to think intelligently. You have to use the data. You have to use the data analytics. You have to use the business analytics. Heart, you have to have the empathy towards the people. You have to understand their situation. You have to understand them And hands, you have to actually be a role model. You have to teach them how to do things, right? So if at all you have an integration between what you think, what you feel, and what you do, you will definitely be an effective leader, right? And that applies to all of you, my dear friends. You also have to be an effective leaders, because you got to grow in your job. You got to become, maybe leader in future, or you already have a leadership position and you got to grow to a certain top management or middle management position. So you have to be ready for this. And how will you get ready for this? By using your head, heart, and hands. Okay. You have to be ready for the technology. You have to be ready for understanding and having empathy towards people. And you also have to do it yourself. Show people how things can be done. You have to train them. You have to empower them. Next is purpose-driven culture. So an organization has to have a purpose-driven culture. Every organization, every employee in the organization should have to have an engagement with the organization. They should understand the value and the purpose of their existence. They should understand how important it is to sustain themselves, how important it is to have the sustainable practices, how they can actually help the organization reduce the global warming. So all this has to be a purpose of the organization, not only the profitability, but also the customer delight and the awareness about the eco-friendly environment. Okay. So if at all you have an organization which is a purpose-driven organization, and if you can imbibe that culture in an organization, that organization definitely does well and it gets successful. The last is harnessing data and digital platforms. So, nobody will deny the importance of technology, the digitization right nowadays. Okay, so organization has to ensure that they're using all this technology and the data which is available to the maximum level, so that their organization gets all the certain benefits of this, and their organization is able to adapt the new technology, adapt the agile kind of a culture, and everybody is able to understand the digitization and its benefits, right? So this is how an organization can ensure that they can build a robust people strategy, which will ensure that they get successful in future. Okay, I hope this slide has made certain points clear to you, and also given you some insights about how are you supposed to be as an employee of an organization, as a leader, and what all different things that you should do as a part of an organization. Am I right? Making sense? Students, are you there with me?
Yes, we do.
Yes, you're right.
Perfect. Nice. Okay, so let's try and understand human capital strategies for agile organization. What is the roadmap? Okay, we have spoken about so many things. We have understood the importance of being an agile organization. We have spoken about the importance of human capital strategy. We have spoken about what all things that the organization needs to do to be an agile organization and to have a successful human capital strategy. Now let's try and understand how do we do it, because the how is the most important aspect in an agile organization, as you all know, right? So again, if you refer to the pre-read that I have already shared with you, you will understand that these are the concepts which has already been, explained to you. But let me just cover that in bit detail, so that, you actually able to understand it in a better manner, right? So the very first thing towards the roadmap, the very first thing that the organizations have to do is embracing the mindset. So when we talk about an agile organization, as I said, technology is important, the software is important, the understanding is important, the teams and the performance is important. But more than that, it is not about the technology, it is not about the processes, it is not about the software, it is not about the tools. It is moreover important about the mindset. Okay. Now, we have so many, almost 167 students in the class right now. How many of you are able to use technology in an effective manner? How many of you love technology? How many of you try and do new things? Okay. How many of you try and innovate something new, right? How many of you are actually trying to see which are the different features that this technology has? which you haven't explored earlier. So how many of you are exploring a technology? Not everybody, am I right? But some of you are doing that. Why are you doing that? Because you have the right mindset towards it. So when we talk about an agile organization, the most important factor is having the right mindset. So it actually, develops step by step. So first of all, you have tools and processes in the organization, then you have practices in the organization, then you have principles, values, and then ultimately you have a mindset. Okay, so you have to embrace that mindset, because the mindset is less visible and more powerful. When we talk about engaged employee in the organization, we talk about their mindset. If you see any successful organization, you will be able to see that, their employees are the most engaged employees in the organization. Let me tell you, with my own experience, as I told you, when I go for a training in an organization, or when I'm setting the HR processes for an organization, I always experience this. And not only this, but I also do individual coaching for my corporate client, executive clients, and I see that the most important factor for them to be successful is the kind of attitude that they carry, is the kind of mindset that they have. If you have a success mindset, you will surely be able to get successful in your life. I'm sure about that. Okay, so when we talk about mindset, as I said, it is not visible. You can't see, how do you see? Like if I would ask you, which color of blazer am I wearing right now? Can you see the color? Which color is this? Pink, right?
Pink.
You can just explain that, the blazer that I'm wearing is of pink color. But if I would ask you, what kind of mindset do you have right now? Do I have right now? Will you be able to see that and say, you have energy, or you have enthusiasm, or you have this and that? No, right? It is not visible. Okay, you can feel that from the kind of conversations or the interactions that I'm having with you, but it cannot be seen. Right? That's in the similar manner, the mindset in an organization or the values in the organization cannot be seen. So you will see that the tools and processes are visible, the practices, the principles are visible. Okay, and your mindset is something which is not visible. So how an organization can embrace the mindset? First of all, they have to ensure that the tools and processes and the practices are in place by adopting it through command and control. So somewhere you have to become stern, you have to become strict, and you have to ensure that there are certain practices that you follow in an organization, right? Second, when we talk about the principles and values, that can be acquired by structure and cultural change. So if you want to have the right principles and value in the organization, you have to develop the right kind of a structure. So we spoke about agile organization. What kind of structure do they have? What kind of structure do we have in agile organization? We studied this before, we discussed it before. Anybody? We need to have a flat organizational structure, right? You have to, yes, absolutely. So you have to have the flat organization structure. So if you want to develop an agile organization, you have to ensure that you don't have a hybrid or a tall or a matrix organization structure, but you have a simple and easy to communicate kind of a structure. And at the same time, you also have to have a cultural change. What kind of culture you have to build? Culture of learning, right? You have to develop learning organizations. Embracing the mindset, the most important would be move towards learning organizations. So once you develop these learning organizations, once you make it a culture of an organization, people will slowly be able to adapt it in a better manner. And that's how you can ensure that employees do have the right mindset for being an agile organization. Second important practice is co-creating employee experience, right? Excuse me. So again, let me tell you all, my dear friends, I'm working with one of the best hospitality industries in India here. Not only in India, but they are actually worldwide. Their presence is there, and they actually are doing very well. I'm sure Marriott's hotel, you must have heard about it, or you may have those hotels nearby your places in Indonesia. Am I right? So when I was working with them, I was having a discussion with them, and then we were talking about how do we actually develop a certain a certain training design for them. So I have asked them, okay, since you are, one of the best hospitality industry, I'm sure you would be looking for customer delight or customer experience. Am I right? So the answer that I received from them was a surprising one. What did they say? No, we are not worried about the customers at all. Okay, we don't want to revolve around the customer delight or customer experience. We want to give lot of importance to the employee delight and employee experience. And I was surprised to see the answer. That's how the big shot organizations or the successful agile organizations look at the practices in the organization. They give utmost importance to the employees in the organization, because they know that happy employees will get happy customers. And tell me, how many of you are actually having this experience in your day-to-day life? If you're dealing with customers, tell me that in the morning, if you are very fresh and you're very happy for some reason, some personal reasons, or maybe some professional reasons, you're very happy, then the kind of treatment that you give to your customer is again very good treatment. But when you're sad and when you're not happy, or maybe you're ill and not feeling well or something, feeling low, what kind of interactions do you have with your customer? That interaction is also low, right? So big organizations actually focus a lot on co-creating the employee experience. They ensure that the employees in the organization are extremely happy, physically, mentally, and as well as emotionally. They also ensure that they have the right skill set, they have the right attitude, and they have a continuous learning process. Okay, so that's how an agile organization ensures co-creating employee experience, because they focus on their employees, and they know that ultimately, if the employees are happy with the organization, if they are engaged, and if they are good, they are valued, they will create a good experience for the customers also. And ultimately, a natural process will result into customer delight and customer experience, right? So this is how they ensure that they create a kind of experience for their own employees, the internal customers, and not only the external customers. And that's why, if again I would ask you, which is the dream company that you have, that you want to work with, I'm sure you would have thought about, all of you would have thought about one or the other company, right? You don't think about that company because their finances are good, or you don't even would know that what kind of annual statements that they have, or what kind of benefits or revenues that they're generating. But you focus on what of the company? You focus on the culture of that company, right? You know that the company treats their employees very well, and that's why you want to work with that company. The third important aspect is evidence-based approach. So an organization has to have an evidence-based approach. Means what? Many of the times what happens, organizations decide or take their decisions based on the previous experiences, or based on the traditional decision making process. So because you were doing it for last year, or maybe 2 years before, or 3 years down the line, you were doing something like this, 3 years before rather, you are doing something like this, and that is why you're following the same practice again and again and again. Okay, so what is the sense in that? There is no sense. And that's the reason why, again, a company like Apple, you see that they come up with one single phone, they come up with one iPhone, and after 6 months they challenge themselves, isn't it? The sale of their own phone gets down because they have their own competition. They come up with some new model. Why do they do that? Because they continuously try and understand what the need of the customers, what is the experience that the customer is looking for, what is the preference that the customers have, what is the needs, characteristics, and value that the customer has. They also do the research in the market, that what kind of products are going to be acceptable to the customer, what kind of services will be acceptable to the customers, and ultimately they ensure that their production, they have the enough expertise, not only the technology, but again, you remember the expertise in terms of brain of the people, because that is the differentiation factor. So they ensure that they have this evidence-based approach. They see that, okay, this is the thing which works. So they do a pilot, they understand, and then accordingly, they keep on making changes in their technology. So they also take into the consideration the organizational context, the capability of the organization, as well as the business environment. So again, maybe a product which is working very well in India may not be good enough for Indonesia, or maybe a product which is working very well in Indonesia may not be good in India. So again, you have to take into the consideration the environment, right? The people's choice, the culture, the test, everything. So that is also one of the most important aspects, or how you can develop an agile organization. The next important is waterfall or faith driven or value driven change. Again, if you recall the pre-reads that I have shared, I spoke about this value driven change in those notes as well, right? So when we say waterfall, what do we mean? We actually consider, when we're doing project management, I'm sure you must be learning project management also, because that's also one of the important aspect of technology. In that, you will come across a certain technology wherein you do certain resource allocation, you decide about a certain project, and then you start working for that project, and then you are so rigid, you don't make any changes in the project unless you get the result. So you develop something, once that is developed, then you move on to the other thing, once that is done, then you move on to the other thing. That is called a waterfall approach or faith driven approach. You complete something, and then you are rigid, you resource allocate the resources, and then you move on to the other thing only and only once you are done with that one thing, right? So it is plan driven. You actually focus a lot on your planning and your resources and time. Okay. But when we talk about the value driven change or value driven approach, which is also called as agile approach. Why do we call it agile approach? Because it is adaptable. You actually do not, and that is the reason why we use sprints in the technology, agile technology, right? So why we doing what we're doing exactly different in this particular technology, that we are not rigid, right? In an organization, when they developed a certain project, they are not rigid about that project. They don't say that, okay, this is the only way we go to carry this project. They try something, they see the result. If it is not working, they change it, they make an iteration in that, and then they allot the resources in a flexible manner. So the features are more important. Okay, the resources and the time can be actually adapted according to the changing requirements. So they keep on trying something too. So it is a kind of trial and error kind of a technology which they use, which is called value driven change. So this is the difference between waterfall and value driven or agile technology or agile change, right? When we talk about waterfall, the requirements drive the cost, schedule, and estimates. And when we talk about the value-driven change, the budget and time select the requirements and can be delivered. Okay. The next would be the rapid experimenting and learning. So if you remember in the earlier slides, we've already spoken about it, right? Rapid experimentation is what? You keep on trying something new. You keep on experimenting. You don't follow the same traditional practices for years and years and years. When we talk about an agile technology or agile organization, we keep on trying something new. We keep on taking some risks, right? Why do you think that, an organizations like Xerox, it is a century-old organization, right? But even if, you talk about any best product in the photocopy machines or that technology, we still think about Xerox. It is so actually working good that many at times we say that I want a Xerox. We don't say that I want a photocopy, but we say I want a Xerox. So it is actually aligned with the entire product, right? The company has aligned with the product. So how are they able to achieve that? Because they have this rapid experimentation and learning adaptation. They have this kind of a culture in their organization. So what do you do in this experimenting culture and learning culture? You try, you have some information, you have the technology, you have the data, you have the business analytics, and you combine those business analytics or the data or the information with some kind of, new innovative creative ideas that could be the surprises. And then you try and see the different combination permutations, and you see which one works well, what kind of output it gives you. Okay, so this kind of experimentations keeps on happening. So you sometimes, try and use some software If you feel that it is not very working well for you, then you shift to some other softwares, or maybe you try and combine that software maybe with some other technology, and that is how you try and create something new. Okay, so that is rapid experimentation and learning from it. So when, many a times when you're doing experimentation, what happens in an experimentation? Remember your school days, litmus paper? Did you do that experiment? Blue color or red color, alkali and all that, remember? So we have done that experiment. So what happens in an experiment? Many a times you get the correct result. The outcome is, or the output is something that you have expected or desired, and sometimes it is not as per the desire, right? So in an organization also, when you're trying something new, when you're doing something different, when you are experimenting, you may not get the exact output which you have expected or desired. So at that time, what happens? You don't get bothered about it. You don't get frustrated about it. Rather, you learn from it and you decide to try something else. You understand what went wrong, what went right, what kind of moderation, iteration that you're required to do, and you do that and keep on moving forward. That is how experimentation and learning works, right? The last point is delivering value continuously. So again, as I said, the most important factor in an agile organization is the customer delight and experience. You have to ensure that ultimately your customer is happy. Okay, because the happy customers will bring you fortune, will bring you profitability. So in an agile organization, the most important and beautiful factor that they have is, they say that, profitability is something that we need not have to focus, or that should not be the end result that we are looking for, because that's a natural process. That is any which ways come. Okay. What we have to focus is on the employee delight, employee satisfaction, employee branding, and ultimately the result should be customer delight and customer experience. And how do you think that a customer will be happy? We all are customers. We keep on buying something or else, right? So what actually makes us happy when we are buying something, a product? It should actually give us some value. It should be a value for money, right? It should give us happiness. It should deliver that delight to us, isn't it? So delivering value continuously is also one of the most important factors if you want to have an agile organization. So how do you ensure that you're delivering value to the customers on a continuous basis? By, first of all, you have to understand, right? Develop a certain product. Then you have to build that product. You have to build a certain, buzz about that product. A promotion and marketing strategy you have to use. You have to test that product. You have to do a pilot study. You have to give that product to some of the customers, see their reaction, see their feedback. You have to do this pilot. Then you deploy that product in the market, and then you release it for the entire other people. So that's how, again, if you remember the case study which I have shared about a retail organizations with all of you, it also talks about the same process, continuous process, which has actually done for the employees in the organization. So again, this becomes an extremely important aspect of an organization. So if at all you want to have a strong agile organization with correct human capital strategy, these are the different ways that you have to ensure that you have that strategy. Now just look at the kind of strategic framework that we have to follow in an organization which is an agile organization. So here I'm talking about the human capital strategy framework. Again, I have already discussed about it in the pre-reads which I have shared with all of you. But here I just want you to get the details of it and just try and understand it. Okay. So business strategy. First of all, for an organization, the most important aspect is your business strategy, which includes your current strength, the capabilities of the organization, and you also have to take into the consideration the disruption which has just happened because of the pandemic. You know how the business have disrupted, right? And then what is the kind of impact that disruption is going to have on your business. So you have to do a proper analysis of all this. And then you have to move on to the organization. So once you do an analysis of the business environment and the entire environment around you, then you move on to your own organization. So then you look at the required capabilities. You see if at all you want to become maybe the leader in the leader in the market for that particular product or service, what kind of required capabilities you need in an organization, and what kind of culture do you want to develop in an organization, whether it is an innovation culture, whether it is a learning culture, whether it is a sustainability culture, whether it is a green culture. What kind of cultures are you looking for, or how do you want to project yourself or create a brand in front of the other customers in the market? That is something that you have to decide. Okay, and then you move on to the talent. Then you do the talent management or talent analysis for an organization. You try and understand what kind of talent would be required to achieve those results. Okay, so talent segment, then you decide about the key strategic roles in the organization, key strategic positions in the organizations, the competency which would require for those key strategic positions. And then you will also see who all are there in the organizations who are having the capacity, and you look for people solutions. You may get a solutions from outside by using different resources, talent pool, and sometimes you will have the solution there itself inside the organization. So you do the promotions and successions and all those transfer and all those things, which is your talent strategy. Then you move on to the human capital. Once you know that what kind of talent is required and where we can get that talent from, then you move on to the human capital. When we say human capital, you prioritize and plan. What do you prioritize? You prioritize the resource allocation. You decide that, okay, which function would require what kind of resources, what kind of training, what kind of development, how you can ensure the engagement of an employees. So accordingly, you prioritize certain aspects and then you plan for those aspects, for delivering those aspects, and you ensure organizational integration. Remember, we spoken about organizational integration in the human capital strategy slide. So here you have to do the functional readiness by doing organizational integration. You have to ensure that each department in the organization or each agile team in the organization is working towards the same purpose. They have a shared vision and value. Okay, and the ultimate is, let me just end the show because I'm not able to see that particular slide here. Okay, so it says, how do I see the slide? Can I move it? Yes. Activation. So ultimately is, once you're done with the entire strategic planning, business strategy as well as human resource strategy, the most important is the implementation of that strategy, right? The activation of that strategy. So when you activate that strategy, you will see that many a times the strategy is working very well for your organizations, and sometimes it is not working so well. Okay, so at that time you have to have an alignment. You have to ensure that your human capital strategy is aligned with the business strategy, the culture, and the kind of results, business results that you are expecting. You have to keep on tracking and measuring that strategy continuously, because you are an agile organizations and you keep on, finding out which all are the best practices which are working for you, which are not working for you, which require moderation. Accordingly, you will do the measurement and ultimately you will do the iteration. So whenever you feel that some of the practices are not working well exactly as it is, then you will do some iteration in those practices, and that is how you will ensure that this is going to be the framework for your human capital strategy. Okay, and then the ultimate purpose that you have is employee experience, right? So why are you doing all these things? Ultimately, what is that you are trying to achieve? So remember, we discussed about employee experience. So you have to co-create the employee experience along with the other managers, right? Along with the other employees. Now, since I am from India, and then I want to talk about something which is related to Indian mythology. So we talk about agile organizations or human capital strategy, and we know that these concepts have emerged maybe, a decade before or maybe 2 decades before. But before that, when we talk about Indian mythology, all these concepts were also a part of this particular mythology. It is actually coming from the cultural background or heritage of Indian culture. And I'm sure many of you do follow Indian culture, and we have a cultural exchange between India and Indonesia. And that's why I'm sure you would be interesting. It would be interesting for all of you to understand what are the different practices, or how this mythology is related to the agile and the human capital culture. So I will finish this particular slide just in 5 minutes, and then we will move on to the question answer. So I'm just taking extra 5 minutes from all of you. Okay. So the golden rule of agile transformation is, so many of you may have read Mahabharata. Okay. So when Mahabharata was happening, Arjun was scared. He was not very comfortable fighting with his own people. So at that time, Krishna has given him some knowledge, and that knowledge is called Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about adharma and dharma. So adharma is the wrong direction, and dharma is the right directions. So if you want to make an agile organization, you have to ensure that the rules and policies are made in harmony with the system. You're not disturbing people, okay, but you're actually trying to help them out through the policies that you're following. Rules are valid in a context. So you cannot be actually always rigid to the rules ke yahi rule hai and you have to continuously follow it. You can't be like that. Okay. Rules are valid only if they benefit people and the customers. So that is also one of the important aspects of agile organization. Bend the rules to upload the spirit of agile principles. You have to keep on bending the rules. You have to keep on making some changes so that you ensure that, good practices are followed. Then when we talk about agile organization, again, the most important is the manager has to be a leader, right? He has to be a coach, and that leadership coaching will only happen when you have a people creation, that is karta and karyakarta. So when we say karta, it is the manager, and when we talk about karyakarta, it is the volunteer. So you have to have a coach when you become a manager in an agile organization. Only being a supervisor isn't enough. You have to be people's person. You have to help people out. So people can grow only when they are empowered to think of the solutions, give autonomy to decide the right things for the customers delight, give the time and space to think out of the box innovation, give the platform to decide and come prepared. Okay. Then if you recall the, a certain maybe idol of Vishnu, you will see that Vishnu is considered to be a leadership coach. Okay. So his eyes are always open. That is related to constant engagement with the employees. His conch shell that talks about communication. His Sudarshan chakra in his hand. If you can see that another image, you will be able to see it. Understands and control business. Club, okay, to induce discipline. Lotus in his hand, rewards and recognition. And the vision that he carries is Sarpadrishti and Garud Drushti. So you have to be thinking about the local as well as global practices. Okay. And the last would be coaching needs insight and foresights. So, again, in Indian culture, you will see that there is a lot of importance which is given to the history, the practices which have already been followed, and also given a lot of importance to the spiritual gurus who are thinking about the future, and they do some tapasya and all those things. Okay, through that, what do we understand? The insight tells us about the value of the case studies. The focus is on the past, the learning and improvisation, looking past for the future. So if you want to have a better future, you have to do an analysis of your past. Value creative visualization, focus on the future. So when you want to create something, you have to visualize it, right? So augmentation, the technology, why do we use that? To visualize things. Focuses on the future, takes risk and moves forward and looking ahead for the future. So there are few forces and counter forces that we use in Indian mythology, which are related to insights and foresights. So insights is strategy, creativity, and ambition of the employees. And when we talk about the counter sides, it is the tactics, the practices that we follow, the processes, and the contentment. the ensuring that the employees are satisfied in the organization. So this is how the Indian mythology also gives you a lot of lessons about the agile technology, agile platforms, and agile culture in an organizations. Now, to end the slides, let me just give you an example of another organization which is a successful organization having a very strong human capital strategy and also having an agile organization. So GE, General Electronics, right? If you remember the first slide, we have seen one of the high performing organization is General Electronics. So they also follow this human capital strategy wherein they ensure that their performance evaluation system is actually agile. They keep on making changes in that particular system, and then other people or other organizations are also following it. They are an agile organization that has seen sustainable improvement. Okay, so they have a new system wherein the employees are guiding and coaching the other employees to achieve the results which they are expecting. So they don't have a rigid framework, right? They have a very flexible culture for the employees, and they deliver regular employee feedback and productive performance conversation. So how do they achieve that communication between the employees? They share the regular feedback, and they also have a performance conversation. They do not wait for the performance appraisal after 1 year, but they keep on doing it. And which with the app, with the agile technology, what do? They prioritize and ask for insights and feedback from the different employees so that they get the real-time feedback. They have a transparent and conversation-focused culture. Okay, and ultimately, again, Sonia Boyle, the GE Canada's Vice President of Human Resource, she says, it requires a measure of trust and vulnerability. You have to have trust between the employees and the employer, and at the same time you have to be ready for the vulnerability, right? You have to be flexible enough. These characteristics won't appear overnight and will require a commitment to change and personal development. So that is how a successful organization, agile organization, can be created through having successful human capital strategy. Okay, so that's all from my end. I have taken 7 extra minutes of all of yours, so I hope that is fine with all of you. Now I'm open to your questions. So next half an hour, or maybe next 23 minutes, we will have a question answer session. So you can keep on asking me your questions, and at the same time you can share your feedback as well. I hope that this session is useful for you. You're able to get some new insights. You're able to understand what are you supposed to do as a manager in an organization, and at the same time it may have provided you with enough information about agile organizations and the human capital strategy for them. Thank you so much. Over to you, Rini.
Wow, thank you very much, Dr. Sada. What a wonderful and attractive sharing from our beautiful speaker, right? So we already have some questions here, which are delivered through our chat, Zoom chat. Maybe I will first read for the first questions.
Yes.
From Muhammad Arif. Changing from traditional to agile organization will need mindset changing on how the company runs the organization. So based on your experience, what is the best approach on dealing the transformation to agile organization? Who is the best person to discuss with, from top management to down, or what parameter that the agile organization with our goal?
Absolutely. Okay, so thank you for this question. First of all, Mohammed, my answer to this question is yes, traditional organization to agile organization, that changing mindset is the most important aspect, as I have already discussed with all of you. When we are talking about changing mindset, the most important is the cultural that we need to build, the culture of trust between the employees, and that cannot be built by one single leader or one single person in the organization. So all the leaders at different levels, right from the frontline managers to the top managers, everybody first of all have to be convinced about creating that mindset. And once they are on the same page, once they agree with this, once they are agreed with changing the mindset of the employees, then everyone can work together and they can build a culture in an organization which is a culture of learning culture in an organization, which is a culture which actually induces or which is the conducive culture for having a right mindset for change. Change is not a very easy process. At the same time, I agree with you completely. So for a traditional organizations to change to a modern organization, it actually would not happen overnight. It is a continuous incremental process which would take place if at all everyone in the organizations, and especially the vision and the mission and the strategy of the organization, agrees to it and it reflects on their culture as well. I hope, Arif, I answered your question.
Okay, I think yes. So I will read the next questions.
Yes,
from Dian Fitri Harmoko. Okay, what will we do if our people department strategy doesn't run well? Like there are some employees who don't follow the rule of the company, or they doesn't obey their supervisor, and it influences the business process of the company. So what will we do as human capital manager?
Sure. So definitely you will have a set of employees who are not convinced about changing the mindset, or maybe not following the regular practices, or they may not be engaged, so to say, in the organization. So at that time, it is very, very important for all of you to establish a conversation between them, because if you will try and impose rules and regulations, and if you keep on telling them, or maybe you sending them notices and show cause notices and memos and saying that you have to follow the rules, if you try and command it and control it, they will become rebellious. Okay, they would not work for you. They will not actually adhere to the rules and regulations. But if at all you try and understand what would be the background, what are the reasons, if their perception is not favorable towards the organizations, or is it their attitude, exactly what is actually their problem is. So if you try and understand their psychology by establishing a conversation with them, trying to understand their point of view, that will be helpful for you. And they will, once you actually show them that you're ready to listen to them, and it's a two-way process, they also have to do something for you, and in return you're also ready to do something for them. If you showcase this particular feeling and emotion to them, or this kind of attitude and approach to them, I'm sure you will be able to help many of them. Okay, you will be able to streamline many of them. As I said, all may not be in streamline or aligned with the organization's purpose, but that's okay. You will always have to have that 10% margin of employees who are not falling into the place. But otherwise, this establishing conversation will definitely help you out in understanding their perspective, and also understanding the hurdle or the challenge that they have when they are not actually following the rules and regulations in the organization. So this is the right approach, I believe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sada. And next question is from Uriel. How to measure effectiveness of agile organization, and what are actually need to track from?
Okay, so agile organizations effect we've already spoken about. When we talk about agile organization, if you actually follow all the principles of an agile organization, it becomes very easy for you to become a proof organization. So you recession proof an organizations, or maybe pandemic proof organizations, or crisis proof organizations, so to say. So your organization is first of all very adaptable, flexible. They adopt the culture, they adapt the changing environment, business environment. At the same time, they are technological savvy, right? They are adapting the new technology, and at the same time, when we talk about an engagement, they're also talking, and we spoke about the managers, hands-on managers, their heart, head, and hands, right? So if at all there's a combination between the technology and your empathy towards people and the betterment of people, you will be able to sustain in any of the crisis that is coming towards you, and you will be able to come out of as a winning or a successful organization. So that is the benefit. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I will give the opportunity for the participants here to convey the questions directly to Dr. Saga. Sure. Anyone want to convey directly? Yeah, please raise your hands. Anyone?
Bu Reni, may I ask a question?
Okay, yeah, sure, Dimas.
Yes. Good evening, Dr. Strada.
Good evening.
Yes, my name is Dimas, and I want to ask you some question about how to develop the talent in the strategic, the agile human capital strategy. You know, because in some of companies, it's given that the human resources is given by the previous moment. So,
Right.
how we create a multi-talent human resources that suitable to the agile condition? Is it through training and development or through tour of duty? Because in agile, we have to adapt easily in the current situation. Yes, and we have to prioritize individual interaction over processes and working subtle over comprehensive, and respond to change over following a plan. Just like that. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So as you've rightly said, that when we talk about agile organization, it's extremely important for us to adapt. And then many of the human resources come from that traditional background wherein, they are not following the agile practices. So first of all, when we are talking about the talent management here, it is not only about the training and development, because if at all you don't have the right training and development practices, that may create a problem for you in an organization, or that may not be very effective for you to be an agile organization. So it actually starts with understanding the employees, analyzing the employees, and engaging the employees. So employee engagement, employee branding is very, very important factor here. Okay, so what happens in many of the organization, and again, as I told you, my own experience with some of the organizations is they are not following what they are doing. Like you conduct employee engagement survey, right? And you get some outcomes from that survey, and people talk about certain practices in the organizations which are not working in their favor. So if at all you getting that feedback from the employees and you're not implementing any change due to that feedback, then people will lose trust on you. Then they will not open up, then they will not come up with their feedback and their ideas and suggestions. So you first of all have to create that comfort level of the employees through employee engagement, wherein the employees can freely share their feedback, their suggestions, and they're open for the critical feedback as well. So if at all you also share critical feedback with them, they have to ready to be receiving it. Okay, once that is done, then you will be able to understand it in a better manner, what kind of training would be required for people to be effective in an organization. So that is how you can ensure. Have I answered your question?
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Strada.
Pleasure.
Okay, thank you, Pak Dimas and Dr. Strada. Maybe one more question from active participants here. Maybe from...
Can you all see my video? Because I'm not able to...
Yes, we can see yours.
It is? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, maybe from Aji Bagus. Pak Aji Bagus, do you want to come to your questions? Since you already have 3 questions, maybe you can choose one question to be delivered. Aji Bagus, are you there? You still here? Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe from Pak Doni or Pak Tony. Yeah, I will give you an opportunity.
Yes.
Yes, Pak Doni.
I'm Doni. Yes. Thank you, Reni. And good evening, Mrs. Strada.
Good evening.
Okay.
Good evening, Doni.
Yes. My question is, what should the company do when the business strategy has been implemented using a human capital strategy properly, but the business results are still not optimal? I think it's already every company is already have the management strategy to do the survive for the sustainable company in the future. But sometimes whatever using the best of management team, but the result is not optimal. What do you think?
Okay, if at all I have understood your question in a right direction, you want to say that even if the management or the business strategy is right, it doesn't deliver the kind of expected results, right? Am I right? That is what your
Right?
question is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Okay. Yeah. So it is very, very much possible because, alone human capital strategy cannot ensure that the business result can be achieved, because this is just one part of the entire team or the entire stems, right? It is just one stem of the entire tree. So in that case, each and every department in the organizations have to have an alignment towards the business strategy. Since we are talking about human capital strategy or human capital department, here we focused on their, how they have to establish themselves. But yes, if at all you want to really achieve the business results, first of all you have to have a shared vision. Every employees, including the frontline employees in the organizations, have to be aware about exactly what that the organization is looking for from them. Second, as I said, every employee has to be understanding the importance of their own single contribution to the company. Okay, because you cannot achieve a big result without small achievements or small wins. Okay, if you want to achieve something big, you have to start by incremental process. So in an organizations, when you don't actually celebrate the kind of small wins that are there by the employees, or you don't make them understand that okay, your contribution is also adding a value to the organization, then they actually start losing the engagement from the organization or losing the interest in their own performances, right? Because certain departments like sales, you can give them incentives and you can keep on motivating them, but that's not possible maybe for R&D department or maybe for financial department, right? Because the results cannot be seen immediately. So that's why when you actually cannot compensate them with maybe financial benefits, you at least have to give them support, and you have to keep on appreciating the kind of work that they're doing. So when it happens in each and every departments in the organization, and when every department has a realization that okay, this is the purpose of an organization and we are supposed to achieve this purpose in the organization, then the business result comes. If at all there is any single department is not able to work according to the strategy, according to the vision, then the ultimate result will be hampered, that's for sure. So each and every entity in the organization has to ensure that the business results can be achieved, and that's only possible when they are completely aware, they have a clarity and transparency about what the organization is exactly looking for. Did I answer your question, Donnie?
Yes, I guess clearly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, okay, thank you very much for Pak Doni and Dr. Sranda. Since we only have the very limited time, so we apologize, we couldn't accommodate all of your questions. But maybe if Dr. Sranda doesn't mind, maybe you can please share your email so participants can continue to discuss with you through the email.
You want me to type it down in the chat box?
Yes, sure. Yeah,
I'll
please.
just...
Okay. So everyone whose questions doesn't answer yet, so maybe you can continue the discussion through the email directly to the Dr. Sranda. And the next agenda, so there will be a certificate granting from our department to our guest speaker, to Dr. Sranda. Maybe my partner, Mas Aziz, will share the certificate.
Sure.
Okay. Yes. This is certificate of appreciation to Dr. Sranda Kulkarni for the wonderful and insightful sharing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and before we close these lectures, so we would like to once again express our gratitude, appreciation for Dr. Sranda as our guest speaker and with the wonderful sharing. And we do hope everyone enjoy the insightful and fruitful and productive lecture that we got today. And please, we would like to invite all of you to have the virtual group photo. And please kindly share your smile and turning on your video. And my partner will take a picture, will take a screenshot from the Zoom video. Okay.
Okay,
Maybe
so
Mbak Gita?
yeah, Rini, can I say just one thing?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So before we get into the picture, let me just say that you have been amazing audiences, right? Whenever I have asked questions, I could get those answers, and through your expressions also, I could see the energy, and that's extremely, extremely important. So for me to deliver the best, I need the energy from you, because it's again a two-way process. So thanks for being so good audiences. And Dr. Neon, Reni, you have also been very supportive throughout this process of these sessions. Thanks for giving me this opportunity, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed talking to all of you. So thank you so much. And if you like the session, in the photographs, I want you to do this.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, can you help me?
Yes. Let's take the photograph with this.
Yes.
Start with the first page. Okay.
Two thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you, Mas Aziz. Yeah, thank you, Mas Aziz. Thank you, everyone. So this is our last agenda. So thank you very much for your participation and your insightful, active and collaboration here. We hope that this lecture will enrich our knowledge, especially in field of human capital strategy. And also, once again, thank you, Dr. Saga and Professor Nyaman Pujawan, for make this lecture become true, and we already gain more knowledge about the field of human capital strategy. So thank you, everyone. See you next time. So I will end this lecture. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Have a wonderful time ahead, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.